what would you say about, from your own background in astronomy and astrology, what is he doing?
Well, he's picked up a lot of previous myths from the Romans and especially the Egyptians. The three stars in Orion's belt were extremely important to the Egyptians because of the fact that they were, as we call them, the three wise men in the later biblical terms. If I may, I'll make this brief. When we look at Orion,
No reason to be brief.
okay, when we look at Orion, we see here that we have three stars that line up like this, okay? And this is the exact same lineup that the pyramids do in Egypt, in Giza. And what this is about is that at the solstitial point, at this time of generation, there was another star right here that was extremely important, and this was the star of Sirius. All right? So the star of Sirius would rise at the horizon, and this horizon would give us a clue as to what was going to happen in the next generation through the next few days. And this simply is this. When you line these three stars up, what will happen is in the next day that they line up, this lines up exactly on the horizon on a particular day, the sun will be right here. And after a 3-day sojourn of Sirius sitting on the descendant point here, or descendant at this point, but after 3 days, what would happen is that the sun would go beneath this horizon, stay here, and then would start its rise again in the winter, which is the longest night. So now we're going from the longest night, starting to move into daylight, more light, more day. And so this ascension then is what represented the whole concept of the Christian Bible of the three wise men who followed a star to see the sun. In this case, they called it that sun. And that was the idea of that story, the allegory of the fact that this was the sun rising. Now this goes back to Egypt almost 3,000 years before these writings were put together. The idea of Sirius and these myths were long before and I'm wondering when I was reading this if the Homeric myth may not have somehow borrowed some of the things of that too, which of course later Plato would take from this. So here we're watching this particular circumstance, and when this happens, now we have the sun rising from winter. We go to the longest nights and start moving now to shorter nights and longer days, more light. You have to remember religion started from dark nights where we were fearful of our lives. We could see great in the day, but we couldn't see anything at night, so we had to huddle in fear, hoping we wouldn't get eaten. But in the daytime, we had light. So this is why the whole idea of the God system is related to light, because we can see better, we can see more, we're protected, we can protect ourselves. Yeah.
So does this really mark and signify winter solstice?
Absolutely, that's exactly what this is. This is the winter solstice. This is the lower point. When we look at the Earth itself, what happens is we have two solstitial points. We have them right here, and this is the equator, okay? When you watch the sun move from one point to the other, it will rise and make this kind of a symbol on the Earth if we followed its path. You notice it looks a lot like the yin-yang symbol. Well, that's what it's from.
Or a sine wave?
Again, well, but there you have it. This is 23 degrees, 26 minutes, 23 degrees, 26 minutes. And what this represents is this. This is the south right here, and this is the north. The reason why I'm saying it that way is if you stand on the North Pole and look southward, the sun rises to our left. So when you look at an astrology chart, we put the east side over here to the left. So this becomes the east and west points. So you see what we've done, we flipped it. You're expecting the north to be ahead of us, and it is. But the way we're looking at it is this way. So we're inverted, so to speak. So what happens is this. When the sun is at its lowest peak, what we have right here, what happens is this is where the souls ascend. Because now they're coming into life. They're coming to the long side of life, and they're reaching to the side. Once they reach this generation within this area here, once we reach our seas of generation, as we're reading in the Homeric myth, what we're looking at is that when the soul finally reaches this position, he now has to descend into this particular world. And now he moves away from that. So the soul then melts the flesh away from the southern part. It solidifies it from the northern part. So we keep the complete rotation. Throughout Plato, you'll notice that they use this as a proof that the soul constantly returns. We see it again and again and again in some of the other writings. But this is basically what's going on. It's just that it represents the solstice point and how it relates to the Earth. Notice that this 23-26 is exactly the angle of the tilt. So it's closest at the south because when the sun down here is north, we are getting all the cold air because the sun is the furthest away from this particular position. So this then is called the sign of Capricorn, or the solstice of Capricorn. And so out of this, the sun now is we're getting much more cold weather this way because the sun is further away from this point. When summer comes, goes up to this point, now it's closer to the axis, and you see by that position, we have more heat. So now we have a different position. So now it needs to move down to the cold place. So this is a constant switch between hot and cold, back and forth, in and out. Very simple thing. When we look at the astrology chart, we try to put it in that kind of I try to put it in this kind of a situation where we see the soul and what the ascent is the soul and what particular period it might be within this concept of this whole round. But this is basically how it unfolds as far as the terms go. What he was talking about later in the text is that we divide the circle into 12 parts. This is called the night side. It's ruled by the moon, and the day side is ruled by the sun. So here you see the ascent to summer. Here we see the descent to winter. And this is the process by which they're writing about it, or the Homeric tale is telling us. Anything else? Anything? No? So that's a nutshell.
But